Okay, we're going to continue to use our Holy Land trip for the message this morning, like last week. We looked at Jerusalem. This week it's going to be the wilderness area. And scripture we're going to look at is Jesus' temptation, Jesus being tempted. And it's Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Next week we'll be at the Sea of Galilee. And then there's Father's Day, and then the following week we'll finish up on the coast, Mediterranean coast, including Megiddo and Mount Carmel. But Retha gave me this pointer. Let's see if it works here. Good try. But we spent 5 nights in Jerusalem. And then we traveled this way, brushed by Jericho, went along the Dead Sea, down to Masada, visited there, came back up, swam in the Dead Sea, and then came back and spent the night in Jericho. Over here, this is the Jordan River. Over here in this area is where Jesus was baptized. And then went into another area of the wilderness and was tempted. So this is going from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. You can see there's some the rockiness, the vegetation, a little bit there, little scrubby bushes and stuff. There's some sheep up there on that hillside with a shepherd. And just want to show you some of the landscape, leaving Jerusalem, going down to the Sea of Galilee. And it's not a whole lot of stuff for the sheep to eat, but they find stuff up there. And here you can see a contrast. It starts to change drastically. There's little vegetation here, but over here, nothing. And we're going down that way to nothing. This is sea level. And so we went from Jerusalem about 2,500 feet high. Now we're at sea level, and then we went 1,300 feet down to the Dead Sea. It's the lowest place on Earth, 1,300 feet below sea level. And this is marking sea level. And you can see it gets very barren, rocky, rugged cliffs, and landscape, not much to it other than sand, rock, hills, mountains. And then around Jericho is an oasis. And they started planting palm trees with date trees. And that's what these are, orchards of date trees. Bunch of them. Tens of thousands of them. And then we headed on down to the Dead Sea, and you start to see more of the landscape there, and it becomes very rugged and not much of anything, barren. So as we're traveling down, this is on the right side, and then on the left side we start to see the Dead Sea, and that's the first glimpse we get of it. And about midway down is a place called En-Gedi. And it's in this area here where David hid out from King Saul when he was chasing him. And we're told that Saul went into a cave here where David was hiding to relieve himself. And David cut off part of his garments to show he was there. He could have killed Saul, but he didn't. He spared his life and, let Saul know he's not coming after him. But this is the area where that took place. You read it, in the Bible, and we were there. And then we went down to Masada, and this is Masada here. And it's a wilderness palace for King Herod the Great. King when Jesus was born. He built up a palace there. He was a great builder, and he built it up here in the wilderness. Dead Sea is right over here, and there was a place to come in case things got bad for him. He would escape here, and very difficult to get to him. So lift it up, and you can see it's all cliffs. And this is a model replica of what it would have looked like. You can see where he did some building here. He had all kinds of things, pools and saunas and mosaic tile floors. And this is a 3-tiered palace that where his residence was. And here's a better view of that, how it would have been at the top of that mountain. And here's some views from Masada on top of it. You can see the ruins that are left there. This is also where, in about 30 years after Jesus' time, rebels took over the land and chased out the Romans for a while. Then the Romans got back in control and chased the rebels down to Masada. And there's about 1,000 of them. And instead of letting the Romans capture them and make slaves out of them, they decided to kill themselves. And it was on top of Masada. More views. You can see the Dead Sea from up top there. This is where the Romans camped out to take Masada. Another view. This would be where this 3-tiered palace was. You can see out Dead Sea right there. And then, oops, too far. Let's see if I can go back one. Okay, never mind. As we drove back along the Dead Sea, these are some of the, you can see the Dead Sea here. And there's also some white caps there and a little surf on the shoreline. And then we got in and swam. And this is me in there swimming. And you float. You just start to sit back like this, let your feet go, and they come up and like a bob on the water. And it's because it's so salty. It's 34% salt. And you really cannot sink in it. You have to work to stand back up. And I had to get it too. And she's starting to get into layout mode on a float right there. And float around. And this is me back here. I was backstroking all over the place there. In that area. And then some of our group put the mud on them. The mud's supposed to be good for the skin. And afterwards, they look 20 years younger after they clean that off. I didn't put any mud on. Supposed to grow hair back too. I didn't do it. Had my chance. And then we went to Jericho, and Jericho, is where Zacchaeus, tax collector, climbed up in a sycamore tree. And that's a sycamore tree. It's called the Zacchaeus sycamore tree. Not the one he actually climbed in, but it's not old enough. But it is a big old sycamore tree in Jericho. And just as I pointed on the map, off from Jericho is the Jordan River Valley. And it's this area where Jesus was baptized. Out here. We didn't go to it. but you could see the area. And another view of the valley. You can't really see the river. And still another one. It's all in here. Jesus felt that it was time for him to begin his public ministry. And he went to John the Baptist, who was baptizing in the wilderness, and Bethany on the other side of the Jordan, and was baptized, and it publicly began his ministry. When he was baptized, God's voice came from heaven and said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." And people could hear that. I don't know how many people understood it or picked up on it, but it was God saying, "This is my Son." Then Jesus was led to the wilderness, or another area of the wilderness. He was already in the wilderness, so he led to another area of the wilderness. And that's where he was tempted. And this is the mountain area is where he went up and was for 40 days and was tempted by Satan somewhere around here. There's a cable car right there that takes you up to it. We didn't go. I wish we could have, but we didn't go up there. Here's another view of the mountain right here. This is an archaeological dig. These steps right here, that are the oldest steps in the world, go back 10,000 years. But where Jesus went to be tempted. Again, another view of the mountain right there. And still another view of that mountain. Matthew tells us that for 40 days Jesus fasted and he was famished. If I go 10 hours without food, I start getting antsy. 40 days. That's a long fast without anything, without any food. He had water, but no food. And he was famished. And then Satan came to Jesus to tempt him away from God. And he did so in at least 3 ways. And I want to read the passage. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him away to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again, it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. First, Satan tempted Jesus by saying, "If you are the Son of God," and this is what's at stake. Satan knows he's the Son of God. Jesus knows he's the Son of God. Some of the other people who were at the baptism heard it. If you're the Son of God, this is what's at stake here. Jesus is God's Son, but how is he going to be God's Son? Is he going to do things God's way, or Satan's way, or the world's way, or what? If you're the Son of God, You're hungry right now. You're famished. Turn these stones into bread and satisfy your hunger. Take the quick, easy way to meet need and get things done. Take the quick, easy way. Jesus' response, nope. We don't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. No, I'm doing things God's way. We'll take the long view and patiently save the world. I'm going to sow seeds. Wait for them to grow and mature and harvest the grain. Winnow it. Work it in with water. Make dough out of it. Put it in the oven. Bake it. Doing things God's way. Second, Satan tempted Jesus by saying again, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself off the highest place on the temple, from the temple. You know, Scripture says the angels will come to your rescue and won't let any harm come to you. Well, this is, Satan interpreting Scripture. No paying attention to how Satan understands Scripture. He twists it and gets it wrong. But throw yourself off of the temple. There'll be lots of people to see it, and angels will come and rescue you and save you. And you'll wow people. It's a spectacular thing to do. You'll wow people and coerce people to believe in you. Jesus' response, nope. Don't put God to the test. I'm doing things God's way. I'm going to teach and minister and let people get to know me, get close to me, and show them how to live God's way. Help them understand how God wants to show them how to live God's way and bring about salvation to the world in that way. And help them believe and encourage them, but not coerce them to believe in me. Third, Satan tempted Jesus by saying, I will make you king of the world. I'll give you all the power of the world. You'll be influential. People will worship you. You'll be able to do whatever you want to do. Make you king of the world. Be wealthy if you'll bow down and worship me. In other words, become my tool. Do things my way. Worldly way. Temporary way. And Jesus' response was, nope. We're to worship and serve God and only God. Doing things God's way. I'm going to focus on the spiritual, eternal things, not the worldly, temporary things. And Jesus resisted doing things Satan's way, the world's way, the easy, quick, popular, temporary way. Instead, he's going to do things God's way. Take the long view of things. Take his time, patiently. It's unpopular, difficult, eternal way. And Jesus left the wilderness ready to be God's son, not Satan's tool. And this is the way he ministered publicly, went about to save the world. Patiently, day in and day out, month after month, year after year, for 3 years. Taught his followers, showed his followers how to live God's way, let them get to know him, let him know them. and then suffer and die on the cross and be brought back to life to save the world. It was difficult. I mean, he had all kinds of opposition, religious leaders opposing him, ones who, were supposed to know better, opposing him, vehemently opposing him. And as far as his followers were concerned, it was like trying to get them to get it. It was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But he worked with them and stayed with them and kept working with them. This is God's way. It takes time. It's a long view of things. It's patiently bringing salvation to the world. Day in, day out, month after month, year after year. Working to save the world. Jesus put God's way a little differently later on in the Sermon on the Mount. He put it this way. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. As followers of Jesus, we are tempted in many, many ways to do wrong. Many, many ways to go astray from following Jesus. Too many to number, really, how we're tempted. But the one that I've been thinking about recently, the one is the temptation to quit Jesus. The temptation to stop living for Jesus and start living for ourselves. The temptation to drop out of church and God's work and start doing our own thing. The temptation to stop building up God's kingdom and start building up our own kingdom. Huge temptation to quit Jesus. I mean, lots of people make a profession of faith in Jesus and get baptized, and then they pretty much go on living the way they've always lived. But to make a profession of faith in Jesus and get baptized and follow Jesus, live the way he lived, actually live the way he wants us to live, day in and day out, month after month, year after year, is difficult. Lots of people attend church occasionally, from time to time, sporadically. Lots of people do that. But to worship God at church regularly, to get involved in the life of the church, to work for the health of the church, to work to help the church grow week after week, month after month, year after year, is difficult. Lots of people can take the time and work up a sermon and preach a sermon. Lots of people are going to take the time, work up a Sunday school lesson, teach a Sunday school lesson. But to preach and teach week after week, month after month, year after year is difficult. Lots of people can get their nerve up and visit someone and talk to them about Jesus, or get their nerve up and visit someone in the hospital and have prayer with them. But to visit people week after week, month after month, year after year is difficult. And I can go on and on and on in this line. To follow Jesus year after year after year is difficult. It's repetitious. There's ups and there's lots of downs to it. You have to take the long view of things. Rarely do you get quick results. Sometimes you never know what good you are doing. difficult followers get criticized. And the mileage, in time, wears you out, takes a toll on you. And the huge temptation is to quit Jesus. But the thing is, we are following Jesus. Jesus, who loves us and cares about us beyond our imagination. He's been through these temptations. He knows what we're going through. And can help us and does. As we follow Jesus, he helps us and encourages us along. In my first book, on the cover, I asked Joseph to depict this. This is Jesus carrying his cross, and this guy's following him, taking up his cross and following Jesus. But he's struggling. Knees are buckling here, having a difficult time. Jesus reaching back to help him and encourage him. Jesus does this. Helps us follow him. I recently experienced Jesus' help in this manner. I was on the Holy Land trip. And this is the second most moving experience I had there. The first most moving I mentioned last week was the praying at the Western Wall. This is the second one. Toward the end of the trip, our guide, Bader, stood at the front of the bus, and we were going somewhere, and he got on the intercom and expressed his gratitude at being able to lead our group, a wonderful group, and he was honored to lead us. And he expressed gratitude for us taking this trip, coming to the Holy Land. He lives there, he grew up there, and he was grateful that we came. And he said this, he said, Jesus has whispered to each of you to come here. To come here and see and experience where Jesus has lived and ministered and saved the world. He's called each of you to come here and see and experience for yourself. And I thought, he's right. Yes, Jesus did. Jesus, knowing who I am, knowing what's going on with me, whispered to me to go and see and experience where he lived and ministered and saved the world. It was Jesus reaching out, caring for me. We are following Jesus, who loves us and cares about us more than we can imagine.